What is up, everyone? Welcome to another weekly news video. We've got a couple of topics today. We're going to start with a very interesting situation with a business going bust, i.e. it's Dibbs, if you weren't aware. Some issues I've had with Goldin and their marketplace and their vault in the last few weeks that I want to talk about. I'll talk about something pretty cool with regards to an eBay lot that I picked up, as well as some good guy shout outs for the week. So let's get cracking. Now, the first thing I want to talk to is Dibbs essentially going bust. And they were, one of those fractional investments where people would band together, they'd purchase, a high-end card and they'd sell portions of that to individuals out there, right? Try and make things a little bit more affordable. Now, this stuff, to make it a little bit more complex, it was also based on NFTs and then also leveraged blockchain technology. And this was pumped to the moon by, a lot of influencers like Jeff Wilson through Sports Card Investor, as Sports Card Radio have flagged in numerous videos, as well as a bunch of others. I think Nat Turner was also a pretty big investor in this thing. And it's pretty interesting for a few reasons. Now, as you can see at the top of the screen here, the market's closed, but essentially they're sort of making it so people can get their money back out. So it's not like a proper dip or rug pull as you've seen in the crypto space. The thing I want to talk to in this goes to some of the issues we saw within the hobby over the last few years. And it goes back to people sort of getting a platform, i.e. an influencer who's never really done anything before, getting a platform and getting some money from somebody that they were so excited to try and, connect with and interact with, that they all of a sudden start talking about it and advertising and speaking on behalf of, a business, a card service, something along those lines. And one thing we've learned pretty quickly, or not pretty quickly, it took a while actually, over the last couple of years, is that so many of these businesses that these people endorsed went bust. And it goes to the things I've said in every other video for the last almost 2 years. You got to take what people are saying to you on a camera with a grain of salt. I'm sure there's been plenty of people that saw Jeff Wilson, that saw Nat Turner investing in this thing and thought it was a good idea, and then now maybe didn't grow the funds the way they thought they would. Maybe they lost money on it. And it's a pretty, poor situation. It's unfortunate, I should say. Now, I like the idea of fractional investments. I think they can work. The problem is there was just way too many offerings at the same sort of time within the hobby. And obviously we've seen this and many others, sort of shit the bed and collapse, like we're maybe seeing with Alt as well. There's all these things that have happened with people endorsing them that, haven't followed through. And a lot of these guys are not doing it intentionally, right? I'm not saying Jeff Wilson pumped this intentionally. I'm sure he had, strong ambitions for this business just based on his investments in the past within the tech space. But it just goes to, people maybe being a little bit uneducated in certain areas, i.e. sports cards. You go back to Mojo Sports, and I'll talk to him a little bit later on actually for a good guy shout out, with the whole, Mark's card situation where he went to this guy's card shop and promoted him and said in a video, he goes, guys, this is what the hobby's all about. It's family. This is special. These guys have it. And then it's like months later, this sort of stuff happens. And, Mojo Sports is probably saying those things because, or Jay, I should say, saying those things because he wants to be a nice guy. And he thinks this guy is nice and this guy's been nice to him through interactions. But what these guys need to understand is when you're endorsing something, when you're giving your opinion on something, you've got all these followers. These guys have, 10, 20, 30,000 followers that see what they're saying and sort of run with it. And him saying that because he thinks he's being a nice guy, when in reality, this person that he doesn't really know is doing all these sort of dodgy things in the background, ends up getting these customers, ripped off in some capacity. Now, again, this hasn't necessarily happened with Dibbs, but it goes to the same thing. Just take what these guys are advertising you with a grain of salt. Like, I know that people want to try and make money and do this sort of stuff, and they want to take on sponsors and things like that. So if I ever have something along those lines, just take what I say with a grain of salt. You go, actually, I've got like one mini sponsor. It's OCA grading here in Australia, a very affordable grading option where it's like $8 Australian a card. So you're talking about $5 to get your card graded USD, which is phenomenal. And one of the things I told these guys when they reached out to me was, if I'm going to talk about this, I'm not going to pretend that you guys are better than PSA. And they basically said, we wouldn't even ask you to do that. I said, my messaging is going to be, this is a very affordable option. If you want to get your cards graded and put them on a shelf, this is the way to go because it costs, $8 Australian. I think it's $10 now, which is freaking peanuts, cheapest in the world as far as I know. Yet you're not going to look for a return for it, but you want to have it on your shelf for your collection, right? And you're not going to go to PSA for that. So my example there, where I've had an opportunity to have a sponsor, right? And I've gone about it in essentially the right way, in my opinion. I've told you guys up front the ins and outs of the whole situation, not pretending that it's something that it's not, where, a bunch of these guys, I'm not naming names here, nobody that I've already mentioned, maybe haven't always done that, and maybe sometimes have done that intentionally. So that's why you got to take things with a grain of salt. Now, the next topic is just going to be something very quick with regards to Goldin and their marketplace. So whilst Goldin has a history of doing some pretty poor things, in my opinion, and I think it's public record at this stage, Their marketplace has some really good deals at the moment, and also their vault currently has no service fees, and if you sell on their vault, you're not going to get charged any fees either. So if you're a collector, you're a little bit silly for not using it, because by selling on there, you're not giving Ken any of your money, so you may as well be using it for the time being. The thing I want to talk to you, though, is how slow their freaking service is. I purchased cards in an auction almost a month ago, and they've only literally showed up today. Now, this is a bunch of cards. I don't know why I won them. Some Pokemon slabs, not really worth anything, but they should sell for pretty good prices here in Australia. I'm going to chuck them on the auction over here and see how they go. But that's sort of, how things go, right? This is the point I'm trying to make. You're buying something, 4 weeks later, it shows up in your vault. That's way too slow. So if I was paying for this service, I'd be pretty pissed off. But for the time being, I can use it and not pay many money, which is a huge win for me, in my opinion. So if you're using this service, just keep that front of mind. It's going to take you a crap ton of time for those cards to finally show up in your vault. I'm not sure what's driving that, because some show up like that, some show up, after a month, like I just said. It's really, really poor. If that stuff continues while people are starting to pay for it, that's not good enough, and I think it's a bit of a joke. Now, next thing I want to talk to is something from my Instagram that I posted yesterday. Now, this goes to things I've talked to on the channel all the time. You need to be investing in eBay lots, taking the time to check out eBay lots, because you're going to find deals that everybody else is sleeping on. And I'm probably letting the cat out of the bag a little bit here, because other people do talk about eBay lots, and me highlighting it to you means there's going to be more or less opportunities for me, I should say, to find deals. But I want to educate you guys. I want to give you guys every opportunity to make as much money as possible through this hobby. And something like this is the best example of that. So I purchased some eBay lots from a guy, some Dragon Ball Z cards, and I think it was also some Pokemon cards in the States. I needed it for just this one Dragon Ball Z card, as you can see here. Very, very rare. I'll talk to that in a second. But one thing I always do to try and save on posts is just check what else they're having. And the eBay lot that I was already looking at was quite good, in the sense that there was things in there that weren't properly described, and that always piques my interest, right? The second you sort of see something hidden in a photo that the seller didn't describe, but they put a really crappy title in, or they've got somewhat blurry photos, that's the stuff you need to dig into, because that just shows they haven't put the effort in, and that just shows you've got, an opportunity here to find a deal. So essentially, saw that bid on those cards, and then I was like, okay, let's see what else they have. I saw an eBay lot. This book right here is the first appearance of Harley Quinn in the actual DC comic universe. She had a first appearance in the Batman Adventures book and anime beforehand, or cartoon. Saw this in the corner of one of the photos. Took a gamble on it. I won it for, a few dollars in the end. And now I've sold it for $340 Australian. I think I like 30x my money, which was, really, really good. And that's the kind of thing you can do within this hobby, because me, essentially, selling that has paid for this PC card that I picked up a few weeks ago, which is a Diego Costa Soul of the Game Flawless Auto from Soccer Flawless 2015. It's the only release of that set. He is a Chelsea legend. He helped us win a title in his first season at the club. Match worn on card auto. This is basically paid for, along with, a $200 profit in terms of Australian dollars, because I saw a comic book, in a random photo on some eBay lot that I was already buying from someone. So that's the kind of stuff you need to be looking into, right? Nobody else is doing it. People are too lazy. Put that extra effort in to check out eBay lots, and you'll be, pretty sweet. And it also helps to sort of expand your knowledge, right? If you like, Dragon Ball Z cards, have somewhat of a knowledge of, Dragon Ball Z comic books or the manga. Have some knowledge of Dragon Ball Z figures, right? Just expand your knowledge into those little areas, and eventually, the more you do that, the more deals you'll find, and then slowly you can expand that knowledge into multiple spaces. Because I'm across things like video games, because I've always collected those. Comic books, I've always collected those. Vinyl, I've always collected that. Cards, again, I've always collected that. So I sort of know enough about each of these niches, and some of these stuff that I don't know a whole lot about, I still know things when they do pop up, and you can, find deals. So that's my quick tip for this week. Now, to finish it off, I got two good guy shout outs. I grilled Mojo Sports a little bit earlier, but he does some really, really good things, and I enjoy watching his vlogs. As you can see, I am subscribed to him. I saw something the other day with regards to his Dallas card show vlog, where there was a young girl at the show basically trying to sell her Pokemon cards, and he bought, $50 worth from her. And this is the kind of thing that he does really well. He seems to be a good guy. I know he gets some, banter his way and some hate every now and then, but again, he seems like a nice guy overall, apart from some of his issues in the past with the Getty images. But this is the kind of thing you need to be doing at a hobby, especially with like young females, right? Because sometimes they don't always feel super comfortable to be part of the hobby, and there's many reasons for why that might be the case. But if you have an opportunity to try and pay something forward, you should be doing what Mojo does here and sort of making that girl's day. That might be, the only sale she made the whole day. He even had her sign one of the cards for him as well, which I thought was a nice touch. But him spending, the 5 minutes to talk to her and then, pay $50 worth of cards towards her could be something she talks about, for weeks. And that could be the thing that triggers her into wanting to be in the hobby long term. She could use that $50 to go buy a box of cards and hit something pretty cool for her PC. That's the kind of stuff we need to be doing. The kids are the future of this hobby, and I was really appreciative to see that. And I hope, we see more of it from, the hobby as a whole. Typically, a lot of guys do a really good job at this, but I just thought this was a nice touch, like I just said. Now, I keep saying now a lot, but the last thing I want to talk to is an off-centered, which is Dustin's from Sports Card Dad, his little podcast show that he does on a weekly basis, I believe it is. He basically had Ryan from Breakout Cards on the show, and I thought it was a very good chat. So if you haven't seen it, please check it out. It goes for about an hour and a half. It's pretty good with regards to some tips on how to spot some fakes, some tips on what cards you should be chasing if you want to dip your toes into vintage, or what some cool things are. So check it out, listen to it while you're working out, doing whatever. It's a pretty good chat, as always, with Dustin and his guests. One thing I thought was pretty interesting, I don't think I've seen I'm not sure when this changed, but he's got the new banner for his channel. He's getting ready for the pump and dump on Stranger Things. Just a bit of fun. I'm not actually saying he's going to pump and dump them. But that is sort of it for this week. So, like I said, let me know your thoughts on anything that I talked about. Let me know your thoughts on eBay lots. I know Wax Museum Podcast, he loves them just as much as me, if not more. If you're interested in getting and seeing some people that do a really good job at finding deals, check out his channel, because he's picked up some freaking awesome rookie cards of people like LeBron, Kevin Durant back in the day. So check it out. It's a really good, watch, but also it's a really good opportunity for you to learn and try and make some money and sort of fund your PC like I do. Let me know if you've had similar issues on Goldin auctions as well, because, it's freaking bullshit in my opinion. Like, having to wait a month to get your cards to show up is, unacceptable, especially in periods where you've got fluctuations happening so quickly. And if you want to be a flipper, you need to be able to flip things quickly. That's not good enough. So very thankful he's not charging me, because the second he does, my cards are leaving that auction house pretty quickly. So that's sort of it for today. Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.